Welcome back to the channel. We're back with our Spider-Man Commander deck profile today with Gwen Stacy. For 1 in a red, you get a 2/1 where when Gwen Stacy enters, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card for as long as you control this creature, and you pay 2 and Jeskai in order to transform her into Ghost Spider. Flying, Vigilance, Haste. Whenever you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, put a +1/+1 counter on Ghost Spider. It's a 4/4 as well, and you can remove 2 counters from this card, exile the top card of your library, and we play a card this turn. So, we have plenty of ways to benefit off of casting cards from exile, plenty of ways to get cards into exile to make sure that we can cast those. A lot of ramp in here because we want to make sure we can cast as many spells as possible, and also have ways to defend Ghost Spider while we're at it, so that it could then deal some commander damage to our opponent. But yeah, a whole bunch of fun stuff. Let's get into it card by card. Starting us off, we have Arcane Signet to start off with that mana. Same with Felwar Stone and Lotus Petal. Also, good thing about these is that they are cheap to cast. So with Ghost Spider, you get that easy +1/+1 counters with them. River Song's Diary. For 3 mana, whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell from their hand, exile instead, putting it into a graveyard as it resolves. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 more cards exiled with this card, choose one of them at random, cast it without paying its mana cost. Maybe your opponent was playing their extra turn spells. Maybe your opponent was playing some board wipes that would now come in handy for you. All fun stuff that you'd be able to do now, because it's whenever a player, not whenever whenever you do it. Sensei's Dividing Top. Sometimes there's cards that only say you could cast spells off the top of the exile pile. Other cards that say you could play lands as well. So sometimes you may just want to reorder what's up there so that you can make sure you can actually use what's up there. Soul Ring for that mana. Soul Talisman. We want to make sure that we're playing cards from exile, because rather than play this card from hand, pay 1 and exile it with 3 time counters, and then when you do eventually get it in 3 turns after removing those stun counters from it, you do get it as just a normal Soul Ring. But like I said, you want to make sure you have ways to cast stuff from exile, getting those +1/+1 counters onto Ghost Spider, so it's a good way to do that as well. Sword of Forge and Frontier. Equipped creatures +2/+2, protection from red and green, allowing us to swing in a little bit easier. And whenever get it? Swing in, because it's Spider-Man. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, exile the top 2 cards of your library. May play those cards this turn. You can also play an additional land this turn, allowing you to get your lands off the top. Maybe that's the one you want to put there for Sensei's Divining Top. Maybe you just want those counters onto Ghost Spider. This way, you could also protect, potentially. Talisman Conviction for the mana, Talisman Creativity for the mana, Talisman Progress for the mana, Wayfarer's Bauble for a land. Help us thin out our deck just a little bit with that as well. For our creatures, we have Bond, Beguiling Baldir. For 3 mana, you get 3/3. Each non-land card in your hand without Foretell has Foretell, basically allowing you to get those cards into exile, similar to Soul Talisman. This way you can then cast them from exile, getting those +1/+1 counters on Ghost Spider. You do have to wait a turn, but sometimes that's not always the worst. And then whenever you cast your second spell each turn, go target creature an opponent controls. Other benefit of foretelling is that you don't have to worry about your maximum hand size after that. And also, goading your opponent's creatures will allow us to, then swing on them easier because their creatures will be blocked, ideally, as long as they don't have the vigilance. But yeah, nice to see that. Born Horde Dracosaur, flying, first strike, 5/5. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile top 2 cards of your library. May play them this turn, both of them. Exile land, create a dinosaur, getting a creature token, and exile non-land, create a treasure token, allowing you that mana to make sure you can cast those cards that you exile. Both of which getting you that counter for Ghost Spider. Commander Lyara Potier, 5 mana for a 5/3. Whenever you attack, spells you cast from exile this turn costs X less cast, where X is the number of players being attacked. If you have a way to get Myriad, we don't in this deck, but that could help that out a bunch more. Swinging on each of our opponents will help us out there as well. This creature doesn't necessarily have to attack, but you can. It is a 5/3, so it might not be the worst situation to be attacking with this. And you can also exile top X cards of your library. Once again, try to attack all 3 players so you could use all 3. Until end turn, you may cast spells from among those exile cards this turn. Nice to see it. Nice cost reduction. Nice way you got a bunch of spells for Ghost Spider. Eret, Tormented Prophet, 3 mana for 2/4. If you draw a card, aka the first one to draw every turn included, exile the top 2 cards of your library instead. Play those cards this turn. We're basically drawing 2 every turn rather than just the 1. Also getting us the benefit of casting stuff from exile for a whole bunch of our cards, which we haven't even gotten to yet. Atali Primal Storm. Another we get some cards into exile, but this time not just our own, but our opponents. And they're going to be free to cast, so we don't have to worry about whatever their mana cost is. But we do get 3+1/+1 counters on Ghost Spider if we cast all 3. Flaming Tyrannosaurus, 7 mana for 5/5, menace whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, aka all these cards that we've been casting from exile. Deal 3 damage to any target and put a +1/+1 counter on this card. When it dies, deal damage equal to its power to each opponent. Be a lot of burn damage, an actual way to win the game rather than just hoping we could swing in with Ghost Spider. Araxa, Empress of Mars, 4 mana for a 5/4 trample battlecry. Whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 till end of turn. Pretty good stat line for 4 mana. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, aka all its cards from exile, get a 2/2 red alien warrior creature token. Oh, that's why, it's from Doctor Who. It's just like, where's this card from? It's from Mars. Kami Celebration. 5 mana for a 3/3. Whenever a modified creature you control attacks, aka all the counters on Ghost Spider, exile top card of your library, play that card this turn. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, giving you some more modified creatures potential. You don't necessarily have to put them on Ghost Spider, so you can get multiple modified creatures, because it says when a modified creature, not whenever one or more modified creatures. Keeper Secrets, whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, deal damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. We have some expensive spells in here. We could potentially deal 7. We could deal 1 with Wayfarer's Bauble. But even still, just sometimes that little ping damage that we're doing to our opponent gets us the win. Lyella, the Blade Reforged, 3 mana for 2/2 haste. 1 it attacks. Exile top card of your library, play that card this turn. We'd like to see it. Whenever one or more cards are put into exile from your library, which, as you've seen, we do a lot, are put into exile from your library, or graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on this card, allowing it to swing in. Also helping you out there with Comedy Celebration, having another modified creature. Nalfashni, another card that helps you get yourself from exile. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, copy it. So, as long as it's not legendary, we get second copy, second Wayfarer's Bauble. But that does help us out a bunch. You do have to sacrifice it, so maybe Wayfarer's Bauble is not the worst thing to do there. But still, something good to consider there, especially if you're getting some big instants and sorcerers off your opponents. That's what we just did. Party Thrasher. 9 creature spells from exile have Convoke. Allow us to tap our creatures to cast them. At the beginning of pre-combat main phase, you may discard a card. If you do, exile top 2 cards of your library. Choose one of them, play that card this turn, allowing you to get some more cards into exile to cast, and making it easier to cast your stuff from exile while you're at it. Pia and Alar, Adopters have haste. Whenever you play a land from exile, cast a spell from exile, get a 1/1 Adopter. Just a little bit of benefit there. With that plus casting stuff from exile synergy. Plargan Nasari, 5 mana for 5/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. An opponent chooses a non-land card exiled this way, may cast the other 2. Well, sorry. It's each player. So 1 you can't cast, 2 you can cast, third one you just couldn't. Professional Facebreaker, giving you some treasure tokens, sacrificing those treasure tokens to cast your stuff from exile. Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer, another way to cast our opponent's stuff from exile. Rose, Cutthroat Raider, first strike, end the combat on your turn. If you attack this turn, create a junk token, allowing you to sacrifice that, get some mana, get the card into exile that you can then cast and get the benefit for Ghost Spider. Sage of the Beyond, spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand, aka from exile. Costs 2 less to cast. That could be quite a cheap spell. Urianger Argulat, 2 mana for a 1/3. Play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, gain 2 life. A little bit of life gain is helpful. And then look at the top card of your library, exile face down, allowing you to cast it later if you do the secondary ability. It does also cost 2 less to cast, so it could come in handy. Vega the Night Watch, whenever you cast a spell from exile, draw a card. It says anywhere other than your hand, but we know where it means. And then Wild Magic Sorcerer, the first spell you cast from exile each turn has Cascade. I mean, why wait for your Lotus Petal when you can get Lotus Petal for free by casting a 7 mana Flaming Tyrannosaurus? Then for our enchantments, we have, I always have to like turn my head for these. Warped Space and Charred Foyer. Exile cards from top of your library, casts 1 for free each turn. Super good abilities, helps us out a whole bunch. Count on Luck. Another way to get a card into exile to cast it later. Monk Class. Second spell you cast each turn costs 1 less cast. We're going to be trying to storm off just a little bit with this deck. Not like a lot, but like enough. And then when this becomes level 2, return 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. And at the beginning of your upkeep for level 3, exile top card of your library, and you can cast for as long as it remains exiled. Let's see it. Passionate Archaeologist, another way to deal some damage to our opponent anytime we cast the spells from exile. Share the Spoils, enters the battlefield and opponent loses game, exile top card of each player's library. Basically we could cast any of those cards, doesn't necessarily have to be ours, but then we do have to replace it with one of our own cards after that. So basically everyone has like a little bit of extra draw power and a little bit of hand knowledge. Tavern Brawler, whenever you cast a spell from exile, creature gets +X/+0, where X is the spell's mana value, allowing us a little bit of extra bump there on Ghost Spider's power, potentially getting you that commander damage. The Lost Ended Damned, actually. Whenever land enters battlefield from anywhere other than your hand, get to respawn. Like to see it. Like some extra ways to have that little bit of protection. Wild Wasteland, skip your draw step, instead exile top 2, allow us to cast the spells from exile. Opponent has a little bit of hand knowledge, but that tends not to matter. Let's scroll on over here to the second half of the deck. For instance, we have Offer You Can't Refuse for a counterspell, Boros Charm for a little indestructibility on our cards, a little bit of extra protections there is always nice. Maybe Double Strike for that commander damage on Ghost Spider, or maybe just a little bit of removal to 4. Chaos Warp for removal, Counterspell for a counterspell, Delayed Blast Fireball. We tend to cast it from exile, so we get that secondary ability where if this card was cast from exile, 5 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. So basically board wipe our opponent, not us, and allows us to swing in then with Ghost Spider. Dovin's Veto for a counterspell. Generous Gift for some removal. Lindbloom, allowing us to get that 0/1 token, allowing us to deal some extra damage when we're casting our spells. Pet exile for some removal, saw it coming, counter target spell for another counter spell. We can also foretell it in order to, get it from exile for that benefits there. Surge of Brilliance, draw a card for each spell you've cast from anywhere other than your hand. We're gonna like to draw power. I mean, we don't need that much draw power because we're gonna be exiling cards from the top of our deck left and right. But it definitely helps to have some cards in hand. Source of Plowshares for some removal, and then Ultimate Magic Holy, we're gonna tend to cast from exile. Friend, all damage will be dealt to you this turn, along with protecting our creatures. As always, we'll just scroll through the lands at the end. Quintorius Con, it's static ability is the one that we care about with this deck. Whenever you cast a card from exile, deal 2 damage to each opponent and gain 2 life. We also get some tokens, discover, and exile any number of cards from your graveyard. Add red mana for each card, and you play those cards this turn, allowing you to get that first ability. We do have to get the 2 tokens first, but like just stealing a little bit of damage, gain the life's the main ability we care about. Blasphemous Act for a board wipe. Ensnared by Mara. Each opponent faces a villainous choice. Exile top card of the library, allow us to cast it. Or what's the second one? Player exiles 4 cards from their library and takes some damage. Either way, they're taking some damage. Expressive Iteration, allowing us look at top 3, put 1 in exile, cast that at a later time. Glimpse the Impossible, top 3 of your library, play those cards this turn. You also get some treasure token, Eldrazi tokens if you don't cast them. So that's some mana for some future turns. Ignite the Future, exile some cards from your library, cast them later, and you'll also flashback it. Same thing with Lab Stage, exile some cards, basically our draw power for this deck. Reckless Impulse, exile top 2 cards of your library, play those cards this turn. Oh, and to end of your next turn, actually. Yeah, that one's actually even better. And then Ren's Resolve, exile top 2 cards of your library until end of your next turn, play those cards. Basically, we like our equivalent of draw power for this deck. But that's the deck there. If you guys like the deck, make sure you like the video. If you want to see more like this in the future, subscribe so you can stay tuned for future videos. But in the meantime, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of the day.